Hello people. So as promised, I have come up with a new video, and this time I'm showing my experience of my ESE interview, and I'm showing some transcripts that can help all the aspirants to prepare well and prepare in advance to what kind of questions to expect and how to be well prepared for them. So this time I tried something new. I've tried a new way of explaining. So if you guys like it, please tell me in the comment section so that I can implement it in the future videos also. So let's start. So this is regarding the panel that I got for interview. My interview date was on 8th of March, and the panel chairperson was Miss Ma'am Satyavati, and my branch is electronics, of course, and it lasted for around 25 to 30 minutes, my interview. And I had my interview on the first day only, and I was the last person to be interviewed on day one. So the chairperson ma'am went through my DAF and asked these questions, and then later pointed to the other three members of the panel to ask and go through the questions. So these are the questions he asked, like why was the gap between the first and second job of mine, and my hobby, as I mentioned, as Android routing. So she asked what is Android routing, I explained, and then job profile of all the three jobs that I had, and why I left the first job. So these were the questions that were asked by ma'am, and my reaction was quite disbelief, as in it has been a notion, or the people think that they usually ask like government related questions like schemes, current affairs, state related questions, all that, but none of them were asked to me. So it was a shock. And yeah, the thing that I've written here, it in a right way explains how I thought. The next thing, then the other panel members, she pointed to the first panel member to ask the questions, and these were the questions that he asked. Funny story, based on my previous interview experience, I never prepared for two subjects, signals and systems and electromagnetics, and to my surprise, the first question that he asked was from signals only. And it was a shocking experience for me, because I would never ever in my dreams would have expected this, because I've given multiple interviews, like a lot, and none of them ever asked any questions from these two. But okay, it's fine. So the questions that the first panel member asked was this: what is the signal difference between energy and power signals? Although these are basic questions only, nothing out of the box, but a few questions like related to autocorrelation and all, they needed some a bit depth understanding. But yeah, if I would have prepared well, I could have answered better. I was not much satisfied with the answer I gave, but still it was something better than nothing. So these are the questions. Autocorrelation, techniques to measure autocorrelation, its physical significance, and suppose there are two square waves at times t1 and t2, then what is the autocorrelation? So these questions, and relationship between power spectral density and autocorrelation, this is a basic question. And since no current affairs question were asked by ma'am, I think he asked one, because recently there was a auction of the spectrum that happened, and he asked what frequency spectrum were put for auction and which ones were sold and unsold, and what was the reason for that. So since I've read this, so it was something that I was able to answer. And about 5G, he asked about 5G and what is zero latency and how it is achieved. This is something one should prepare, because this is something that may be asked this year also. Now there was one practical kind of questions, like he gave a scenario in which he was saying that these days prisoners are having a phone somehow, and they are able to contact people outside the prison. So what should we do to prevent it? So as I talked about jammers, then he asked further, like how would you jam GSM and CDMA, and if we will be able to jam CDMA or not, and why. So this is something. And yeah, this is the backstory I was talking about, in which I didn't have any experience related to signals and electromagnetics. I know it is a mistake, I should have read it, but yeah, these are the two mistakes that I made. The second one I will cover later. So next is the second panel member. She was a lady from South India, and these questions that were asked by her, and again these were questions from electromagnetics and communication. So my reaction again here was same. Y first signals and now electromagnetic. Why? Anyway, let's come to the questions. So she asked about VSWR, its significance, and why is it used. Again, she wanted to understand the practical applications of it, because definition is something that everyone must be knowing, but why is it used and whether it is used, that is something she wanted to know. Then she asked about some property of magnetron. I guess she was unaware of the syllabus that time, because it was the microwave thing has been removed in 2014, so it was out of syllabus, but I don't know, maybe it is used practically more so. And then there is a new question that came, inbound and outbound communication. I was unaware of it, so it was something that went above my head. So yeah, this is what my reaction was. And then question was asked, what a transparent smartphone. And luckily I have read it. I had some interest in technologies and new stuff that are coming up, so I had an idea about this, and I took the chance and gave the answer. And yeah, it was correct, and they were actually satisfied with the answer, and it actually felt really good. Then she asked about ionospheric communication and critical frequency. So this is a basic question. I think everyone who is preparing for the exam must be having an idea about it, so it is nothing difficult here. But the second follow-up question that she asked was optimum frequency, MUF and LUF. So here I got confused between these two. Although it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. So I got confused a bit here. And then again came a practical question. Like in the critical frequency thing, is it same across different states in our country, or is it different? So it was something that you have to think and ponder and then give the answer. So we had a bit of discussion. The good thing about the panelists are they will never tell you that you are wrong or something. They will try to give you hints so that you can come up with the right answer. So this is something I think they try to make you comfortable so that you can answer. So yeah, my brain was always like why signals and why E&T, and then but from the inside I knew it. Okay, one more panelist is there, so maybe I can turn things up this time. So I took a leap of faith, and the third panel member, and to my surprise, again VSWR question came. The significance of VSWR with reference to design and with reference to tuning it in an equipment as an end user. So based on my job profile, the guy, he asked a question regarding there's an equipment in which a VSWR socket or that knob is there, and using that we tune it. So what is the purpose of that? What are we trying to achieve there? That is what he wanted to know. And I answered that, but he didn't look very much convinced. But yet I tried my best and gave the answer. Then he came back to the communication part, the ionospheric part. And they asked about what are the factors on which the ionospheric propagation depends on, and like temperature, pressure and all those things. So this thing was there. Then he came to HF and VHF communication, and what type of communication is used in it, was the mode of communication. Then again came the practical aspect, like telecom operator buys a spectrum in an auction, would he use the same frequency throughout the country, or is it different across different places? Again, it's a practical question and required a lot of thinking before answering, because they were trying to see the approach here, not the answer, like your way of thinking, how we are connecting things. If it is a frequency, then will it depend on something, location and everything, how is it affected? So based on all those things, they were expecting an answer. The next one was, will there be interference if there is a communication between Mumbai and Delhi using the same frequency? Again, a practical question. You have to think wisely before answering these questions, because it may play a vital role, because if this answer is given by thinking properly and correctly, then only I think it will be a huge boost to your score in the interview marks, because these questions test your practical applications, your thinking ability. So I think that is important. But again, after having questions from these three panelists, my mind was like, oh, is it done? Am I did I blew up the opportunity again? Because it wasn't something that I planned, or I didn't want the interview to go this way. It was completely application oriented, very little questions of non-technical, and a lot of application based from signals and E&T. So this is something I did not expect, but again, I answered most of them, so it felt good, and I was a bit hopeful also. I was about to think like the interview is over, but again, out of the blue, the first panelist again came back to question, and he came up with three questions, like how ionization takes place in ionospheric propagation, again a basic one, And the second one he came like how communication happens at night using ionospheric propagation, if layers are combined or reduced at night. Again, he wanted to test your thinking ability. This is something I think most of us have read, but framing a proper answer here is important, like how it happens. And he was, again, I tried to answer in all different possible ways, but again, he was a bit difficult to satisfy in this case. He looked a bit insatiable for some reason, but yet I answered to the best of my knowledge. And the third one was how charge neutrality is maintained in ionosphere in the absence of sunlight at night. So these things, as you can see, most of the questions that were asked to me were from communication, electromagnetics, and signals. Communication is something I think most of you will prepare, and you should, because it is the basic thing that you should know. But again, just looking at the questions these people are asking, you can see that it is practical, application oriented. Don't just go with the theory and definitions. This won't be sufficient. Read about the practical aspects of it. And my reaction here, because they were literally enjoying the interview, because they looked interested the way I was answering and how the first person came back to ask the questions, because most of them were done with the questions, but this guy came back because he took interest in the interview. I think this is something that went positive in the interview, because he came up with these questions, and even though I fumbled in few, he told that go read about it, and it's very interesting. He told go read about it and you'll find it very interesting. So it felt as if he wanted me to learn something. Maybe it was something I showed in my character or behavior that I was willing to learn, that he said that. But anyway, and yeah, again my heart told that yes, I did good, but again my brain was like, did I or did I not? So when the interview got over, I went outside the UPSC, and my father was waiting there, and I told him I don't know how it went, but I am not very confident or how it went. And he said that you will score 130 plus. That was, I don't know why he said that, but I literally did score 130 plus. But yeah, my reaction was like, what the fuck just happened? Did I answer most of these questions? But do they look insatiable? Because they were looking insatiable for some reason. And my overall experience was that the interview was on the tougher side, definitely. It was not something to directly from the book or something. It was a bit out of the box, and it felt like a stress interview, because they were asking questions, follow-up questions multiple times. They were confirming with every answer as if I am confident with the answer or not. Like if I give an answer, what is a signal, they will expect, are you sure? They will say, are you sure? Is it the same or is it something else? So they will try to confuse you at every point of the interview, but it is up to you that you should be confident and you should answer accordingly. So this is how I scored 132 out of 200. The odds did look against me during the whole of the interview, but what I did was I had a spontaneity in my answer. Whatever they asked, actually people will say that you should think, you should give some time to think and then answer. But I would suggest that you should be spontaneous in your answers. You shouldn't take too much time. If you are taking too much time, they will automatically move to the next question and it will feel like you do not know. So if you are taking too much time, it is better to say, sir, I don't know. I couldn't recall. I'll read about it. Something like that. But since I was spontaneous in most of the answers, I think it went as a positive for me, and it impressed them in some way. And then the answer that I gave, where confidence comes in, because every question they are having a backup question, like if this is happening, why this is happening, why not, or are you sure? So I was confident. I stick to my answers. I was sticking to my answers. So this, I think, worked again in my favor, that they saw that he's confident with his answers. So maybe it worked. Next was the humbleness. If I knew something, I told yes, I know. If I do not, I told sorry, sir, I do not know. And I was, willing to learn. My behavior or the way of answering was something like, okay, even if I do not know, I will try to learn. It is something I'm willingness to learn. The next point, willingness to learn. I think these things worked in my favor. And again, these qualities aren't something that I was born with. It came up with a lot of practice, tons of reading, and learnings from my mistakes in the previous interviews. These interviews that I took for different PSUs, a BARC or whatever, they worked. Finally, they worked, because they gave me all the insights, like what I was lacking, what I had to work on, and what should I prepare for. And I think ultimately it worked in this interview, and I was able to score these marks. So the mistakes that I made. So these are the few takeaways. First of all, one can never be fully prepared for UPSC interview. You should know that. Whatever you prepare, it can go thrashing down at the day of the interview. As it happened with me, they didn't ask any non-tech questions and all that hype that Coaching Institute and everyone create, that they will ask this, but I was asked nothing. Again, the one mistake that I made was leaving two important subjects, which I shouldn't have done. Make sure you don't do it. And expect the unexpected. I was not expecting them to ask these questions on these two subjects. So yeah, same thing, but you know the point. And the bias or the preconceived notion that you have, that they will ask this, the chairman will ask this, it has to be flushed down the drain, because it is not necessary. They can ask anything what they want, or if they don't want, in my case, because she barely asked anything. And yes, you can write these down, because kahin UPSC mein na aa jaye. So thank you all. I hope this video will help all the aspirants achieve the goal of having rank in the merit list.